Woo! Good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We have a daily show here at Cities 92.9, a daily morning show. I go through today's hottest news, and we cover state, we cover local, we cover national news. Here in the 6 o'clock hour, I've got some national headlines for you. Democrat mayor of a swing state, okay, who is Muslim, by the way, just endorsed Donald Trump for president. This is a huge endorsement. I could really care less about the celebrity endorsements. Who is it, Billie Eilish or Eilish, however you pronounce it, who usually looks like an absolute clown, like actually looks like a clown. Her hair is lime green a lot of the time. She wears like these really dark clothes, like a trench coat. She looks kind of ridiculous 90% of the time. Unless she's placing an endorsement for Kamala Harris, then she cleans up, she runs a comb through her hair, and then she endorses Kamala Harris. Because, of course, if you had lime green hair and you looked like you hadn't showered in a few days and you endorsed Kamala Harris, that endorsement wouldn't go very far. So they cleaned up Billie Eilish, and then she made an endorsement for Kamala Harris. Look, I don't care about the celebrity endorsements because those endorsements really don't matter in the sense that you're not really taking a risk when you're endorsing a Democrat as a celebrity. Everybody expects you to do that. This guy, he's taking a big risk. He's in a swing state. He's a Democrat mayor. He's also a Muslim. And he's taking a big risk endorsing President Donald Trump, but he's doing it because it's the right thing to do. Next, why the hell are San Francisco police officers dressing up as giant chickens? Yes, they are in giant chicken costumes. I'll tell you why coming up in about 10 minutes. Black swing state voters want Donald Trump, and they say they want him for his strength, and they aren't buying this whole Kamala Harris is a black woman, and that would make her a great president. They're not buying that baloney. Okay, so we're going to talk about all this here in the 6 o'clock hour. I've got so much for you today, so you are really going to want to find me on YouTube, Rumble. There you get a little bit of extra content when we break for the radio commercials as well. So find me, Conservative Cat. You can look it up. And I'm also on Facebook. Just find us on Facebook by typing in your search bar, Cities 92.9. All right, here we go. Like I said, Kamala Harris, she's had 11 celebrity endorsements. You've got Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, a ton of celebrity endorsement. Now, that's not just Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has also received some celebrity endorsements. The guy who plays Reagan, it's slipping my mind right now. I know this guy, Dennis Quaid. He endorsed Donald Trump. There's been several other actors who have endorsed Donald Trump. We just hear about the celebrities who endorse Kamala Harris because our mainstream media sucks. Okay. But like I said, Donald Trump, he's been picking up these big endorsements. And I don't think the celebrity endorsements really matter all that much. I do think that a mayor from Hamtramck, Michigan is going to be huge. So he was endorsed by Amir Ghalib. So you probably are wondering to yourself, Cat, Amir Ghalib, that doesn't really sound like a Presbyterian. He doesn't really sound like he's a Christian. Correct. A Muslim mayor in Michigan, from a town that is majority Muslim. It's a Muslim town in America. It's predominantly known as the Muslim town in America. He just endorsed Donald Trump over the candidate from his own party. Okay, he's a Democrat mayor and he endorsed. That's going to go a long way. Also, I talked about the UAW, how they didn't endorse Donald Trump, despite the union members, of course, overwhelmingly voting for Donald Trump in their union vote. But the union leadership decided to not listen to their members and didn't endorse Donald Trump. Rather, they didn't endorse anybody. That's actually going to go a long way. When Donald Trump was asked about it, he says that's huge because traditionally the UAW has always endorsed Democrats. They have, I'm not going to say they've always, I mean, I think it was Nixon, possibly Reagan they endorsed. It's been a long time since they've endorsed a Republican. So that's going to go a long way, I think, for Donald Trump as well. Here is what Amir posted on Facebook. He says, though it's looking good, he may or may not win the election and be the 47th president of the United States. But I believe he is the right choice for this critical time. This is what the mayor says in his endorsement. He goes, I'll not regret my decision, no matter the outcome, no matter what the outcome might be or would be. I'm ready to face the consequences. For this and many other reasons, I announce my support and endorsement for the former and hopefully the next president of the United States, Donald Trump. Now let the caravan begin its journey. This is just the starting point. So, yeah, like I said, here's the thing with a political endorsement. Most of these political endorsements are complete crap. It really doesn't mean anything. I hate when people send me, oh, did you see the FOP, endorsed me as a Republican? Okay, if they didn't, I mean, that would be news, right? But like, of course, the, law enforcement traditionally or the sheriff will traditionally back local candidates. Like, I hate when people tout their endorsements like that unless they've actually got some teeth, right? This actually has teeth. This person is taking a huge risk by endorsing Donald Trump. Okay, a celebrity endorsing a Democrat isn't a risk. You expect them to do that. Okay, you expect them to typically endorse Democrats. That's what they do every year. Crossing party lines when you're a swing state mayor is taking a risk. And, this particular area in Michigan, there's a lot of attention on Michigan post October 7th. There's a large population of Muslims there. Tlaib endorsing Trump is huge. This endorsement stands out because Tlaib, as an elected mayor, has his own political operation as well. And I think it's key that in that endorsement, he talks about the numbers. I think that this guy has a better understanding when it comes to the lay of the land than a journalist or journalismer. I like to call them journalismers because they are not people of integrity. These reporters from New York City, DC, they think they know the polls, they think they know the numbers, and they know the lay of the land. He's an actual official, an elected official in Wayne County, one of the bellwether counties in all of the United States of America. A bellwether county in the United States. This is, how do I put this? Whoever that county votes for, that candidate ultimately wins the election. Okay, so yeah, this is pretty huge. If the Democrat mayor is willing to cross party lines, he's doing so because the data is at his disposal, and it's leading him to believe that Donald Trump is going to win. He wouldn't throw his endorsement behind somebody he knows is losing. So Tlaib, I think he's got a better understanding of the lay of the land, what the numbers look like. So a lot of you have seen Kamala Harris signs or Harris for President signs, and you've called me up and you're like, Kat, I don't think Donald's going to win. This is huge. Tlaib could hate Kamala for a number of reasons. He could not say anything, right? He could have not thrown an endorsement behind Donald Trump if he doesn't like Kamala Harris, which totally understand. She's anti-Jewish, but she's also anti-Muslim, because she hasn't talked about really ending this war. She hasn't talked about her foreign policy at all. She hasn't talked about any policy. And like I said, this guy could hate her for a number of reasons, like pick one, right? He could have not said anything. Being that he's a Democrat, that's kind of expected. If you're a Democrat and you don't like your choice, typically you just don't say anything. Or he could have given like an unendorsement. He could have said, I'm definitely not voting for Kamala Harris. And he didn't have to say, oh, I'm voting for Donald Trump. He didn't have to do that. He's actively endorsing a pro-Israel Republican for president. That ought to tell you something, one, about the war, two, about Donald Trump. I think that at this point, these pro-Palestinian or these pro, I don't even want to call them pro-Hamas, because there are people who are tragically dying. At this point, though, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. Who is going to be the president that stops the war? Who's going to be the president that stops the war? You guys know where I stand on Israel. I'm pro-Israel. I am a Christian Zionist. I believe that Israel should exist as a state, and I believe that it should be a Jewish state. I believe that God promised the land to the Jewish people, that's their land, and that's where I stand on the issue. However, if you're pro-Hamas and you're listening, pro-Palestinian, vote for the guy who's going to end the war and save lives, period. This is something. This is huge. All right, I do want to shift gears here. I want to talk about the city of San Francisco. I opened the show and people are texting in, what do you mean police are dressing up in giant chicken costumes? No, that's exactly what I mean. It's not hyperbole. That is what is happening in the city of San Francisco. They usually call this city the Paris of the West, San Francisco, and they used to call it that before it turned into a zombie apocalyptic third world city. In the pursuit of progressivism, city officials have ruined this city. They've ruined it. They've legalized open air drug sales. They've legalized theft. There's an epidemic there. There's poop, actual poop in the streets. Business exodus has ensued. Americans are overdosing on hard drugs there. Open air drug sales. They're overdosing in the streets, pooping themselves. And this is all happening at alarming rates. Rather than doing something about it, guess what the San Francisco police officers are doing? They're going after drivers who drive too fast by having officers dress up as inflatable chickens. Like, they all get inflatable chicken costumes and they try to catch speeding drivers going through crosswalks. Yeah. I got to take a quick break, but if you want more on that story, I've got it here on Conservative Cat. Go ahead, find me on YouTube, find me on Rumble, subscribe to my YouTube channel. No, quite literally, the San Francisco police, they're dressing up as giant chickens in order to deter people speeding through crosswalks. Okay. What about buying drugs? Open air drug sales? What about people overdosing in the streets? Why don't we address those problems before we address people maybe speeding through crosswalks? I mean, come on. I think we've got bigger fish to fry, San Francisco. I'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show. I so do appreciate your listenership. Now, I'm not ready to give the entire story, so I'm going to give you the headlines. We're going to have a very heavy local show tomorrow, very heavily local, so you won't want to miss it. There is a story I am working on. I am a freelance journalist for the Center Square, and I've done a deep dive into this data being exposed. Okay, so social security numbers, death certificates, voter applications, personal information were all accessible through the open internet, according to a longtime security researcher. His name is Jeremiah Fowler. Okay, Jeremiah Fowler found that there were multiple counties in Illinois, DeKalb County, several others, that use a third-party company, Platinum Technology Resource. Now, help me find out. I'd love to know if McLean County uses this. I don't know. I have to find that information out. Point is, he found out at least 12. Many more, but at least 12. He was able to access their databases. So the county, they hired this, third-party data storage provider, election services provider, okay? And they had exposed those databases, obviously, because he had access to very sensitive voter information. We're talking full social security numbers. And when I was on the phone with Fowler the other day, we were going through it, and he was telling me about how, these small governments, they can't fight these foreign adversaries. And he says, Russia, Iran are adversaries. they could get a hold of this sensitive, if he could get a hold of this sensitive information, right, as a ethical, longtime security researcher, our foreign adversaries will be able to get a hold of it, and they will try to disrupt or could disrupt an election. You request multiple absentee ballots using somebody's social security number. You might even be able to cast a vote in that person's name if you have their social. I mean, if you have somebody's social, I mean, there's all kinds of problems outside of disrupting an election. You're able to steal Americans' identities. Now, for background, this guy is living in Europe. He's been doing this a very long time, decades, and he's very, very intelligent. They're going to try to disparage this fella. I can already hear it in, the other side's voice, that they don't believe that this is going on, where data is being exposed. So this is a really big issue, and definitely something that I will be talking about tomorrow once we publish. So yeah, be sure to tune in. That's going to be a huge story. 4.6 million records were exposed. So that's driver's license, social security numbers that this guy had access to. Now, this is an ethical security researcher. So he said, I didn't download these this information. However, it was made available to me. So obviously these nefarious people, or the bad guys, are going to be able to do it as well. And they might not. They might actually download the information and use that information to disrupt the United States elections process. So this is a big, big story. Nobody's going to be talking about it probably, but it's definitely something you'll hear here on Conservative Cat. Okay, when we come back, I'm going to wrap up the story with the San Francisco police officers dressing up as chickens. Why did the chicken cross the road? Okay, so the officers, they're giving out these citations to those who don't stop for the chicken crossing the road. You see what this is? They're playing around. It's playtime, I guess, in San Francisco. So we're going to do that. Also tomorrow, I said that it's going to be heavily local. There's a story out there I wanted to share with you about Instagram and their teens accounts. So this is actually something I have yet to really decide how I feel about this. The Instagram, Meta, the company, they have implemented something called teens accounts. So basically what it is, parents have more controls over what their teens are viewing on the app. So it's limited. People can't message them overnight. Teenagers and parents have more control and access to how they're interacting on social media. This led, of course, Senator Dick Durbin to say, hey, we're not doing enough at a congressional level. We should be passing my act, my law, my legislation, and we should be regulating big tech to ensure that teens are protected, that children are protected from things like sexual exploitation, And I agree. Yes, 100%. However, there are some people who will say, hey, that's kind of hypocritical of you, Dick Durbin, to care about child exploitation, sexual exploitation online when you are pro gender affirming care for minors. So that's another story that will drop tomorrow. So I'm very excited to bring that to the program. Now let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. Let's talk about the San Francisco Police Department. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. Find me on YouTube, find me on Rumble, subscribe to the channel. I so do appreciate all the time that you guys take to listen to the show each and every morning. Let me know how we can improve it. 309-451-9299. And big shout out to all y'all who showed up to the studio for your Trump sign. Yes, we did give out Trump signs. We don't have any more. We don't have any more Trump signs, but we were giving out Trump signs as thank yous to you this election season. And coming up on October 6th, there is a Get Out the Vote rally in which I will be in attendance. So this is a big rally. You really need to show up. myself, Scott Robbins, who is the radio host for Markley Van Camp, and Robbins are going to be there. McLean County Republican Party, they're hosting it. There's going to be some BBQ, barbecue at the Davis Lodge. Again, that's Sunday, October 6th, starting at 4 o'clock from 7:30. I highly recommend you come out and ask me your questions about the election. I can try to help you. There's going to be a bounce house for the kids and games. So I know as a parent, you're probably looking for cheap ways to get the kids out and have some fun. Get your tickets, McLeanCountyRepublicans.org. Okay, before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about the San Francisco Police Department dressing up as inflatable chickens to try to catch speeding drivers going through crosswalks. Okay, so they're like I said, San Francisco is dealing with people pooping in the streets. They're dealing with open air drug sales. They're dealing with a theft epidemic. But rather than doing something about all of that, they are trying to catch drivers who are going too fast by having the officers dress up as chickens. So the officers, they're giving out citations to those who don't stop for the chicken crossing the road. You see how this kind of goes. So the gig is paying off as the department has given out about 40 citations with some fines costing upwards of $400. So they're giving out citations for up to $400. That's huge. And that's according to the Lieutenant Jonathan Ozel from the department. And he said, if you don't see someone in a giant chicken costume, then we really have, if you don't see someone in a giant chicken costume, then we really have a problem. So it's having an impact. Drivers seem to be more aware, more cognizant, certainly when they see a chicken. So on the live stream, I do have the video clip of the officer with the. So he is at the beginning of the crosswalk on the sidewalk. Then he starts to walk out into the road. And he starts to walk out into the road, trying to get these drivers to stop, because in California, you have to stop for pedestrians. Okay, so why did the chicken cross the road? To buy drugs, perhaps, in San Francisco, according to the New York Post. Lieutenant Jonathan Ozel, he was in this flamboyant suit, and it makes him look like he's riding the chicken's back. Okay, so he's trying to demonstrate how many drivers fail to yield to pedestrians, even though it's obvious. And, this officers in this bright, big chicken costumes, the drivers aren't stopping. The exercise was one of 5 the department conducted over the last 6 months as part of the city's plan to achieve Vision Zero. Okay. Each featured an officer crossing different intersections while wearing costumes. One included Big Bird costume from Sesame Street, the other a unicorn. Firstly, look, I mean, when I'm watching this video of this officer walking into traffic, he saw a car driving. He tried to walk in front of the car, okay? It's one thing for you to stop for pedestrians. It's another thing if the pedestrian, jumps out in front of you, okay? And that's essentially what this cop is doing. He's trying to, jump out in front of these cars to get them to stop, to slam on their brakes. And obviously, you will continue through a crosswalk if it's not safe to stop, okay? So I don't understand. If it's not safe to stop now, obviously you don't want to hit pedestrians, but if the pedestrian is on the sidewalk and then lurches out in front of you, there's nothing you can really do about that. So the city couldn't be more pathetic if they tried. Officials, they don't think twice about squeezing every single dollar out of their residents. And this is already one of the most expensive places to live in the world, San Francisco is. And they're doing nothing to solve quite literally what's looks like a zombie apocalypse over there. And this, officer, he's strolled across the street, making sure to give drivers at least 200 feet to spot him and stop, which, I mean, okay. From what I can see in the video, it looks like he's tiptoeing out into the crosswalk, it would be kind of hard as a driver to know if this guy is actually serious about crossing the street. He's just probably confusing the drivers. I don't even think this is an effective way to get people to stop at crosswalks. He's not in the crosswalk. He only enters after he sees the drivers. And it's unclear how much time he gave them to stop. He also does it in like the most passive aggressive way. And like I said, it's confusing drivers. You're like passive aggressively like walking into this crosswalk. Every driver who refused to let him cross, the officer would flag down his partner and they'd issue a hefty fine of $400. Like I said, they want to squeeze money out of their residents. This is already the most expensive place to live, and they're trying to dupe these drivers into not stopping for this inflatable chicken. um, how exactly are those fines going to be used, by the way? To fund the drug habits of deplorable people, because we know that they're not using the taxpayer money to stop the drug problem in the streets. No. They're using it to probably fund the drug habits of these people in the streets. They're going to funnel money to these NGOs that they house the unhoused population. Okay, if these NGOs were housing the unhoused, then they would have done it by now. But San Francisco still has a huge homeless population. So San Francisco, like I said, one of the most expensive cities in the world. And it got that way because of cowardly, corrupt leadership. And it's no surprise that they're dedicating resources to policing drivers who likely contribute more to society than these people ever would in their lifetime, these, government officials. So the next time city officials want to act like they care about upholding the law, they could at least pretend to care about what's happening in the streets of San Francisco, the open drug sales, the zombie apocalypse. But of course, we can't expect that from the poop capital of the world. And like I said, they're doing this. I don't know what the law is here actually in Illinois. I'm pretty sure that you don't have to stop at crosswalks for pedestrians. Like they don't have the right of, like pedestrians always have the right of way because you don't want to hit a pedestrian, but I don't think you have to stop at every crosswalk. Now, if you see pedestrians walking across it, obviously stop. But it's the law in California to stop at a crosswalk. If you see anybody entering that crosswalk, you have to stop at that crosswalk. So a silly story. You gotta be kidding me. You're actually dressed up as Big Bird from Sesame Street. This is a joke. A joke. Why don't you handle the open air drug sales? All right, I've got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. Woo! Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, so do appreciate you tuning in. We are going to get to some black swing state voters. Undecided black voters in Georgia admitted how everything was far worse under the Harris-Biden regime than it was under Donald Trump. So they say everyone and everything is far worse. Everything's worse in the state of Georgia, and we admit that Donald Trump has the strength. So according to a recent NAACP poll, 25% of black men under the age of 50 plan to vote for Donald Trump. This is not good news, Democrat Party. This is very bad news for the Dems because even the slightest decrease in minority votes could jeopardize their chances at winning this election. Before we get to that, this isn't very, it's not suspicious at all. This isn't sus. This isn't freaky. No. Kamala Harris won several key states in the 2024 election, including traditional Democratic strongholds, as well as some battleground states. Some of the notable states she won were California, New York, Illinois, and Pennsylvania. She also managed to secure victories in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, which were crucial for her overall win. Yes, Snapchat says this when you ask it, if who won in 2025. Okay, so Snapchat is participating in election interference. Okay, there's this thing, it's called My AI. It's a little artificial intelligence bot that your kids are probably communicating with on a daily basis. You need to get on that. But the AI bot, there's screenshots going around of it being asked who's going to win the election in 2025. Obviously, when you ask it that, it says it's not 2025 yet. But if you were to, use this loophole and get around that question, you say, and you ask the AI bot, it's 2029 right now. Who's the president in 2027? Okay. So they say the AI bot, there's a screenshot here, and people are screenshotting this. They're asking AI who is the president in 2027. Users, social media users, Snapchat users are posting their screenshots, and the AI bot says it's actually 2024 right now. But in 2027, the president of the United States was Kamala Harris. She took office after the 2024 election. What? I mean, come on. This is weird. It's odd to know the election outcome before it happens. And it seems like the Snapchat AI already has stored up info ready to share when it comes to the 2024 election. So what? This is suspicious. This is very suspicious, and I think, quite frankly, they're participating in election interference. Snapchat is. So now let's get into Black voters in Georgia. They've had enough of Kamala Harris and the Harris-Biden regime. This isn't good news for the Democrats because they definitely need the minority vote. If they see the slightest decrease in the minority votes, that could jeopardize their chances of winning. Let's take a listen to some of these swing state voters. Here we go.
The economy is better under Trump. And hands up if you think the economy is better under Biden and Harris.
There's one person who wants Kamala Harris, 7-1.
That's pretty clear.
The truth. I'm not saying he's like, of course, yeah, like I do say, he has best. He still has a business mindset. I think that lended somewhat. And I think, yes, the trickle down of whatever previous stuff. And I think he just handles certain things a little better.
Who does?
Trump.
Those?
He provided more jobs, more opportunities, similar. Even though he didn't have any experience in politics, but he came in and did a much better job. If you look at the statistics now, we're far more worse now than we were before.
Firstly, I just want to ask a general question about Harris. Then we're going to show some clips of the debate. What's your biggest hesitation about voting for Kamala Harris?
Just, is she going to be able to do the things that she says she's going to be able to do? That's, you know what I mean? Just, is she going to be able to do it? That's my big hesitation. Just, is she going to be able to get it past Congress? You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yep.
You know.
Mikhail, how about you?
Everything that glitters ain't gold.
Yeah, for sure.
It looks great on paper, but I'm not sure it could translate to politics, and if she'll even be able to get it passed.
Haywood?
My thing is her strength. That's my focus for her. Is she gonna be able to take a punch and give one or two back? That's my biggest thing. And it has nothing to do with her gender, ladies. Okay, but we talking about the highest office in the land.
Yeah. If it was Michelle Obama, I would feel totally different.
Yeah.
You know?
You can't be weak and hold that office.
Yeah, like if you put her next to Michelle Obama, it's like,
Or Hillary Clinton.
or Hillary Clinton, it's like it's no comparison on the strength that I think Michelle Obama or Hillary Clinton would have against her. They would eat her up.
How did Harris come across then? How did she do up against?
Okay. So the clip goes on, but it's from the Daily Mail. They went to Cobb County to speak to a group of 8 undecided Black voters in Georgia, and they discovered that Harris may have a significant reason to worry. Okay, Daily Mail has discovered that Out of all of 8 of them, 7 of them are going to probably be voting for Donald Trump. He asked them in the beginning, who's for Donald Trump? 7 of them raised their hands. Who's for Harris? 1 of them raised their hand for Harris. So the gentleman there, who's 64, retired, living on disability benefits, he voted for Joe Biden in 2020, and he said he's leaning towards supporting Harris, but he has concern. Okay, so he said, my thing is her strength. You can't be weak and hold that office when you have to face these other leaders in these other countries. Are you going to have what it takes to stand there and throw punches like they throw punches? So this Democrat voted for Joe Biden, is leaning towards supporting Harris, but he says, look, I don't know. She doesn't have the strength. That's a valid point. Kamala, she can't physically prevent herself from breaking out, hysterically laughing. Okay, I really don't think she has control over this tick that she's got where she hysterically laughs. The moment anybody looks at her or asks her a question, I think it's a tick or an uncomfortable thing where she breaks out into hysterical laughter. It's undoubtedly an unconscious strategy she uses when she's put into uncomfortable positions. So she uses this laughter to try to get her out of these uncomfortable positions. That's going to be a big problem because when you are a president, you're dealing with foreign adversaries, you're going to be put into uncomfortable situations. And hysterical laughter in the face of Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, that's not going to go over very well. She can't even look at the press and Americans. And she is, expected. And we're all just supposed to believe that she's going to be able to negotiate with hostile entities like Hamas. You got to be kidding me. She can't even look at the press without busting out into hysterical laughter. Another Black voter, she's 32. She's a teacher. She's a mom of 3. She said that she thought Harris won the debate. But then she says this. She says, everything that glitters ain't gold. She looks great on paper. And I'm not sure if that'll translate to policy. She's talking about, okay, she looks great on paper in that she's a Black woman, but it does not equate to American excellence in itself. Okay, especially considering those are insignificant birth rates. Just because you're Black, just because you're a woman, it might look great on paper, but that doesn't automatically equate to American excellence. That doesn't mean that you're going to do what's best for America because those are insignificant birth rates. Race has nothing to do with it. And the Democrats make it seem like it has everything to do with this election. And this woman, she's 52, has a master's degree, and she's now medically retired. So she says, you put her next to Michelle Obama or Hillary Clinton, there's no comparison. They would eat her up. Although I myself would never vote for Michelle Obama or Michael Obama, whatever one you prefer, or Hillary Clinton or Hillary Clinton, I would never vote for them. They're definitely not as weak as Kamala. The Democrats could have picked any other woman, but they chose the most radical puppet they could find. And they did this at the expense of, finding somebody that's not able to put together simple sentences. That's Kamala Harris. They wanted a puppet. That's why they didn't bring forward Hillary Clinton or Michelle Obama, because those are ambitious women and they need a puppet. Okay, these invisible powers that control everything. They needed a puppet. So although there's nothing scarier than Michelle Obama presidency or a Hillary presidency, there is nothing scarier than a Kamala Harris presidency. There was another guy. He was a pro-Harris business owner. He believed that President Trump provided more jobs, more opportunities than Joe Biden did. That's why he is now voting for Donald Trump or likely to vote for Donald Trump. They're undecided. He says, if you look at the statistics now, we're far worse than we were before. And he said, everything is worse now under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. He said, even though Trump didn't make all the right choices, the economy just worked under him. And I think he has an overall business mindset. So while money is not everything, it's clearly everything in terms of the president of the United States. People care about the president being able to have that business mindset to make the economy work. Even Harris supporters admit it's undeniable how bad the economy has gotten. No matter how hard the media tries to gaslight you, that inflation's a myth, and they have tried very hard, but it's not working. These Harris supporters, people who have supported Harris and aren't necessarily voting for Donald Trump, they're swing or undecided voters in a swing state. They're leaning all towards Donald Trump. They said if the election were held today, the interviewer said, raise your hand if you'd vote for Donald Trump. Out of all 8 of them, 7 of them would vote for Donald Trump today if the election were held today. So if the Dems want to convince voters their candidate is going to fix the economy, they probably should have picked a candidate who doesn't have to stand on a record of a failing economy. Okay, why don't you pick a candidate that doesn't have a failed economy behind her? Okay. All right. I do have to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back. Coming up in just a little bit. Walz, even Tim Walz, her running mate, said we can't afford 4 more years of this. We can't afford 4 more years of this. So I'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat. Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Money isn't everything, but it's nearly everything in terms of President of the United States, okay? Even Harris supporters are starting to admit the undeniable about how bad the economy has gotten. You cannot deny that the economy is so bad under the Harris-Biden regime. And the media's attempt to gaslight Americans into believing that inflation is a myth, it didn't work. It didn't work out as they had originally thought it would. The media, the corporate journalismers. And if the Dems want to convince voters that their candidate is going to fix the economy, why didn't they run somebody without a failed economy on their record? Okay, so the average person, they just want to know, they just want to be able to not have to decide between groceries and electricity. Okay, the left pretends Kamala's for the little guy in middle America. That's not true. She destroyed the middle class faster than the Dems had originally planned. Okay, she destroyed it. Joe Biden destroyed the middle class. She's weak. She's going to lead the country into a disaster. That's why 25% of Black men under the age of 50 will not be voting blue this November, despite the melanin content of Kamala Harris's skin. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every morning. Go ahead, smash that like button if you're watching and share this out with your normie friends. When we come back, we will be discussing Tim Walz. He actually said out loud with his mouth that America can't afford 4 more years of this, 4 more years of Kamala Harris in the White House. Which is probably the most accurate thing he has said, considering he's a pathological liar. He lies about things nobody should lie about, things that, like, he just lies to lie, I think, Tim Walz. So he lied about receiving the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce endorsement. They had to write him a letter saying, hey, we definitely did not endorse you. We did, however, endorse your opponent. I think it was a congressional run that he was running in. And then he lied about his wife going through IVF. Okay, why would you lie about that? And who fact checked him? His wife. His wife said that I've never gone through IVF. So he also lied about his service in the military, saying that he served in combat, or at least he implied that he served in combat. He said weapons of war, like the ones I carried overseas. That's a lie. You never went overseas. You never saw a combat zone, Tim. So this guy lies because he's a pathological liar and he likes it. But this is one of the most accurate things he's ever said, that we can't afford another 4 years of Kamala Harris. Woo! Hey, find me on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel today. That's crucial that you do that. Find me on Rumble as well. I'm there. You can share the program out with your normie friends. Now, I want to get into a few things this hour. Tim Walz, he claims that America can't afford 4 more years of this, and he doesn't realize he just endorsed Donald Trump, I guess. We can't afford 4 more years of this. Yeah, I think that's probably the most accurate thing he said, especially considering he's a pathological liar. He just lies. He lies about things nobody should ever lie about. He lied about his wife going through IVF treatments. He also lied about receiving an endorsement from the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce. They had to write him a letter and say, hey, sorry, Tim, we actually endorsed your opponent, so stop going around telling people that you received our endorsement. He also lied, of course, about his service in the military. He lied about going overseas and serving in a combat zone. He didn't do that. We're going to get to that story, plus a coffee shop. I had to pull this story because I've told you several times, I won't blast them on air, but there was a coffee shop near the university there, Illinois State University, and I got kicked out for wearing, I didn't even realize I was wearing it. It was a Trump hat, but it wasn't like a red MAGA hat. It was like a beanie, and it had the word Trump on it. And they kicked me out. Like, they didn't serve me my coffee. I had ordered the coffee, and I couldn't understand why she was treating me so badly. I was like, do I have like spinach in my teeth? Like, what's going on? And they ultimately said, yeah, we're not giving you your cup of coffee. And I said, well, I paid for it, so you got to give it to me. And they said, no, we don't have to serve you. And then they kicked me out of the coffee shop. Like, straight up, that happened to me on Illinois State University campus. And I had no idea why. I couldn't figure it out. But then I got into the car and, in my rear view mirror, I saw that I had the hat on. And I was like, oh my, of course, that's the reason. So this coffee shop, they recently got $4 million, okay, for after this university targeted them. She put up a pro-police sign, a thin blue line sign, and her her husband, who was a cop, got shot in the line of duty, by the way, the coffee shop owner's husband. So this cop is not like the cops dressing up as chickens and running out into the road to try to get drivers to stop. No, her husband, actually was, I don't know, doing his duty, and he got shot in the line of duty. And she had a thin blue line flag up in her coffee shop, and this university targeted her shop. And ultimately, she was awarded $4 million after a lawsuit. So we're going to get to that story. Later, I do want to talk about this story. The news kind of gets overwhelming, and it's important for us to take a step back, look at some good news that's happening around the country. This family, they lost a little kitty cat of theirs at Yellowstone, so they bring the cats, they go camping, and They were shocked to find out that this cat made it back home nearly 900 miles back to California. So they lost the cat in Yellowstone. He traveled and made it back home, nearly home. I think he was like a couple hundred miles off. But they found the cat. He was on his way back home to California, which was, it's just such a sweet story, heartwarming story. I'm glad that the cat went back to California and didn't make his way to Springfield, Ohio, where they're eating the poor kitty cats. The Haitian illegal immigrants are eating the poor kitty cats. But this cat made it back to his family. How sweet. So we're going to get to these three stories this hour. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Let's get into Tim Walz here, okay? So he was, he was at some sort of rally, and he said America, quote, cannot afford 4 more years of this. 4 more years of Kamala Harris in the White House? This is probably one of the most accurate things he's ever said, especially considering he's a pathological liar. Like I said, he lied about his wife receiving IVF treatments. Very bizarre. Why would you lie about something like that? He's lied about endorsements he's received. He's lied about his service. Let's take a listen to this actually very accurate clip.
We can't afford 4 more years of this. We can't
Yeah, so there's Tim Walz. He's ultimately throwing his endorsement behind Donald Trump now, which wouldn't shock me because his entire family has endorsed Donald Trump. I'm not talking like a brother of his or just one sister. I'm talking the entire Walz family. There was a viral photograph reel. His entire family has thrown their endorsement behind Donald Trump, which is hilarious. The most fascinating thing about Kamala Walz campaigning is their commitment to campaigning as if they are not the incumbent party. Okay, I don't know why they're so committed to this this campaigning where they campaign against themselves. Like at least try to come up with some sort of accomplishments. You can't just gaslight people into thinking that you're not the incumbent party, that Kamala currently isn't the vice president. This is why Kamala Harris constantly talks. You'll hear every single time that woman opens up her mouth, she talks about her prior positions, her former positions as like a prosecutor. If I've got to hear Kamala Harris say one more time, well, my time as a prosecutor, shut up. You did nothing in your time as a prosecutor. You slept your way up to the top. She's not the type of girl that you want to bring home to mom. Definitely didn't go up the political ladder. She got up the political ladder by being the type of woman you never want to take home to mom, right? She never talks about her accomplishments as vice president. She only talks about her former positions. It's that bad to where she doesn't want to talk about how she's currently vice president, which is, the second highest honor that one could probably get outside of being president of the United States. You'd think she'd talk about that, but no. Quote from NPR, according to NPR, this is what she says. Before I was elected vice president, before I was elected United States senator, I was elected attorney general, as I've mentioned, of California. And before that, I was a courtroom prosecutor. She was a crappy prosecutor, by the way. I will bring this up until the day, until I can no longer bring it up. Okay, she went after people who recorded Planned Parenthood operatives. These were Planned Parenthood people who were selling baby parts, which is a felony, by the way. You can't sell baby parts, okay? Planned Parenthood people were selling baby parts. And a couple of people recorded those Planned Parenthood operatives, and got them to admit on tape that they were selling baby parts. Who did Kamala Harris go after as a prosecutor? No, she didn't go after the Planned Parenthood people who were selling baby parts. She went after the people who caught the Planned Parenthood people who were selling baby parts. You got to be kidding me with this. So it's rather telling when one points to their success in jobs that happened years ago while acting as if they are not in their current position. And they act as if they're not in that position. She doesn't even bring up the fact that she is the vice president ever. She only brings up the fact that she was a courtroom prosecutor. And like I said, if I got to hear her talk about that one more time, I'll lose my marbles. But Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz told rally goers in Pennsylvania, we can't afford 4 more years of this. which of course prompted all kinds of social media mockery and mockery on, of course, the conservative cat show. You know, and I don't feel bad for mocking Tim Walz. He's a terrible human being. He's a communist. And I say that with all the accuracy in the world. Anybody who goes to China 30 times and makes it to where his wedding anniversary date lines up with the Tiananmen Square massacre and has openly said that that's what he wanted it to remember his anniversary date, and he wanted it to line up with the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. That guy is a commie. He's a communist, okay? And you know, during his speech in Pennsylvania, he was discussing gun violence, okay? And he became distracted, of course, by this audience member who needed a glass of water. And he's the running mate of Vice Presidential Kamala Harris. And like I said, he strayed away from his speech and he called attention to this rally goer. So he said, quote, "Things like we did in Minnesota, we have enhanced background checks, red flag laws to get guns out of there to make a difference." And he goes, "And I still have my guns and I go shoot pheasants in a couple of weeks." And then he strays off from his speech and he points attention to this attendee who needed some water. He goes, "We need some water. Can I get a check on him?" You know, and he points to this attendee. And I bring that up, you know, and this is all according to Fox News, because he strays away from the speech. I don't want to say that he was talking about Kamala Harris in the White House for sure, and I want to make sure that you have as much accurate information as possible. Although Walz may have been referring to gun violence or Trump's rhetoric when he cited 4 more years of this. The ambiguity of his statement has led to conservative commentators to roast this Minnesota governor on social media in what appeared to be a criticism of the Biden administration. He said, we can't afford 4 more years of this. Now, I don't know if he was talking about the Biden-Harris regime and talking about, you know, the unaffordability, or if he was talking about gun violence. We can't afford 4 more years of gun violence. We can't afford 4 more years of Trump's rhetoric. I don't know what he was exactly saying, because he kind of strays off from his speech and he jumps back in, and then you're like, is he in context? Is he out of context? I don't know what, but there's ambiguity there, and people have jumped onto this. But most voters know how bad things have gotten over the last 4 years, okay? And not everyone is mentally competent to make the connection that has everything to do with this current administration. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that these last 4 years sucked when it comes to the economy. Okay. Unfortunately, people don't have the mental capacity to make that connection, that obviously this has something to do with the Biden-Harris regime. Because a lot of those mentally incompetent people, they'll credit the Dems for Trump's success, and then they'll credit Trump for the leftist ruin, which makes no sense. But like I said, mentally incompetent leftists, they just can't seem to draw this connection that, hey, the reason why your wallet's empty is because of the current administration, not because of Donald Trump, who served as president 4 years ago. Okay, one specific example, because I love numbers, Biden. He's claiming that inflation was 9% when he came into office and that he brought it down to 3%. That's not true. The actual number is 1.4% under his watch. That's what he inherited. And then he's increased it by over 20%. Okay, so that also would not have been possible without Kamala Harris's tie-breaking votes. I've talked about this several times. The American Rescue Plan Act, also the Inflation Reduction Act. Those tie-breaking votes increase the cost of gas, rent, food, the cost of electric vehicles, as I have pointed out several times. In the Inflation Reduction Act, which had very little to do with inflation and everything to do with climate green weenie crap, there was a tax credit in there for like $7,500 for Americans to get an electric vehicle. Electric vehicles that, you know, Americans really don't want. And that's not me saying it. That's every consumer expert ever. There's just not a demand for them. But they gave $7,500 out to, you know, people for these electric vehicles. And subsequently, you have Ford raising the cost of their electric vehicle by $8,000. So therefore, it is inflation. That is the that is a perfect example of how inflation has risen under the Biden-Harris regime. It's increased gas, rent, food. Those tie-breaking votes, Kamala Harris's fault. Okay, so Kamala blames Trump for the border crisis, even though she oversaw the worst border crisis in American history after inheriting one of the most secure borders in American history. So the current administration has caused so much destruction that even people who hate Trump will vote for him. Okay, even Democrat mayors are throwing their endorsement behind Donald Trump. This is why Kamala Harris is stealing every single policy of Donald Trump. She hasn't even talked about her foreign policy. She has very little policy. She finally put policy up on her website, but she has stolen, what is it, the child tax credit. She stole the no taxes on tips. And, you know, she's mocking Americans because she's stealing Donald Trump's policy and she has no policy of her own. So your life is better under Trump than it is right now. And no amount of gaslighting is going to change that. So as much as Walz lies about nearly everything, he's finally said something true. We can't afford 4 more years of this. We can't. So he finally said something true. Good for him. I'm going to be back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Find me on Rumble and on YouTube. I'll be right back. What's new, Cat? Whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, what's new, Cat? Well, I've got all kinds of new news for you, hot news. So, as I was telling you a little bit before, Tim Walz, he actually came out and said we can't afford 4 more years of this, and I think that's the most true thing this guy has ever said, especially considering this guy is a pathological liar. He's lied about IVF treatments for his wife. What kind of human being does that? He has children. She never went through IVF treatments, and who lies about that? Gwen Walz, his wife, has fact-checked him and said, no, I haven't gone through IVF treatments. And then he also lies about receiving the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce endorsement. There's just several things wrong with this fella. He lied about his service. He said that he served in a combat zone. Not true. But this was the most accurate thing he's ever said. We can't afford 4 more years of this. Inflation jumped from 1.4% under Joe Biden's watch, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's watch, to 20%. Okay, and I like numbers. We know that Kamala Harris also had these tie-breaking votes, and that increased the cost of gas, food, rent, and this is her fault. This is her fault. Inflation is on her. Because of those tie-breaking votes. So, like I said, your life was better under Trump, and it doesn't matter how much gaslighting goes on from the corporate media. It's not going to change your empty wallet and what you know is true in your gut. All right, I do want to talk about Big City Coffee because they were awarded millions after Boise State. Now, this is a university in Idaho. They were targeted, this coffee shop, for pro-police messaging. Taxpayer-funded university, by the way. They don't have the right to intimidate people for politically incorrect expression. Okay, what they deem politically incorrect expression. This wasn't a MAGA hat. This wasn't a MAGA sign. It wasn't a Donald Trump sign. This was a thin blue line sign. Okay, that the Big Coffee or the Big City Coffee shop had. So, according to the Post Millennial, I want to get to this story. During the dispute, Big City Coffee had multiple locations with one newer spot on BSU's campus. I love this story because I can kind of relate to it. I was actually kicked out of a coffee shop for wearing a Trump beanie. It just had the word Trump on it, and they kicked me out. They didn't serve me. That's why I picked this story. It's very interesting. Being a college student on college campus and not being served because of your political affiliation. It's quite interesting. But anyway, the fight between these two parties, BSU and Big City Coffee, began when Sarah Fendley, that's her name, displayed a thin blue lines flag at an off-campus. It wasn't even the campus coffee shop. It was an off-campus location. And her fiance at the time, I misspoke. It wasn't her husband. Her fiance at the time, her now husband, was a police officer who had recently been shot in the line of duty in 2016. The thin blue line flag became a point of political tension, of course, during the George Floyd riots of 2020. So Sarah, she argued that pressure from the university administrators as well as the students, students who were critical of her support of law enforcement, led to her closing the campus location. She had to close this campus location because administrators and students were very critical of her, and they bullied her into closing this location on BSU's campus. Okay, and what's so funny is that she was pro law enforcement, but the thin blue line flag wasn't even on campus. It was in an off-campus shop, a different location. She had multiple locations. It's unclear if the school realized they were operating in America, but they didn't seem to realize that they can't penalize people for politically incorrect expressions. Okay, did this university, did these administrators, did they not realize that, hey, this coffee shop is in America and she can have whatever kind of sign political sign she wants? I wouldn't even say this is a political sign. She can have whatever kind of expression she wants. She can support law enforcement, especially considering her fiance was shot in the line of duty. But I mean, the nerve. This is extremely telling of the left. I mean, the nerve of the left to bully her into closing this shop and to drive her off campus for wrongthink. You know, it's not approved thought. It tells you a lot about the left. So Sarah filed a $10 million legal claim against the university, the BSU president, the vice president for equity initiatives, as well as two administrators, Alicia Etsy and Leslie Webb, in 2021. So she filed this legal claim accusing them of causing emotional damages and violating her free speech rights. So a county district judge dismissed the case against BSU, the vice president of equity initiatives, and the president of the university, but she said there wasn't sufficient evidence, but she allowed the legal battle to proceed with the two administrators, Etsy and Webb. So the judge noted that there were unresolved questions surrounding these two administrators, and if they retaliated against Sarah for expressing her views online. So these people obviously bullied her into submission, tried to get her to close up her coffee shop on the university campus. Lawyers for the coffee shop owner argued that Etsy and Webb conspired to retaliate against Sarah, forcing the closure of her BSU location shortly after it opened. The two administrators argued the decision to close the shop was obviously the choice of Sarah. So one would hope that a university would be supportive of different viewpoints, but the exact opposite is true. And I don't know how they treat their campus police, but I sure as hell hope they don't treat them like they treated this fiance of a law enforcement officer, because I feel bad for those campus police. Colleges, like I said, they're supposed to be places of where you can debate and have ideas exchanged. And really what they've become, and I hate to say this, but it's true, they've become leftist indoctrination camps. And unfortunately, for them, the cost to this university was millions of dollars. Millions of dollars this university had to pay out because their administrators, there was evidence that they had retaliated against Sarah and forced her to close her BSU location. So unfortunately for these leftists, these university officials, they had to pay out. And unfortunately for the taxpayers, right? I'd imagine that the taxpayers, they are largely funded by taxpayer dollars, this university, and it cost them millions. This all could have been avoided had these administrators realized, we live in America and people are entitled to their viewpoints. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but I've got a nice news story for you coming up next. It's about a cat who made quite the journey across America, from Yellowstone to California. This poor little kitty got lost, and he made the trek back home to California. So it was like a 900-mile journey. It's a real sweet story. I'm back with that next on Conservative Cat. Woo! Good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Donald Trump's reaction to Kamala Harris receiving the endorsement of IRS agents is hilarious. He goes, I'd rather not have that endorsement. Yeah, I don't think a whole lot of people would want that endorsement. The IRS agents have endorsed Kamala Harris. Well, go figure. And like I said, 5 million jobs. Okay, this is what Joe Biden and Harris tout all the time. Oh, we've created so many jobs. All those jobs pretty much in the government sector, okay? And of those jobs not in the government sector, they gave them to foreign nationals. They also gave they counted the COVID bounce back jobs. So before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this cat. I think it's a cute story, and it's nice to step away from the crazy news of the day. There's a movie, it's called Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey, where 2 dogs and a cat, they make their way across America to try to find their beloved owners. This is that story. So a couple, they were absolutely devastated, heartbroken after one of their cats ran into the forest during a Yellowstone vacation, and they had to leave the poor kitty behind after searching for 4 days. However, they never thought that the cat would make his way back to California, especially because it's a 900-mile journey. So according to Fox News, this is incredible. Benny and Susan and their 2 cats, they arrived to Yellowstone National Park on June 4th. Although the couple had always traveled with their pets, something spooked their Siamese cat. Their Siamese cat's name is Rainbow. Rainbow. I think it's a cute little name, but he ran into the forest, okay, during their vacation on June 4th. The couple took 4 days to try to look for him. They tried to get him to return with his favorite treats, his toys, but Rainbow was nowhere to be found, this poor little kitty cat. So 2 months later, the couple received a call that they will never forget. In August, the couple, Benny and Susan, they received word that Rainbow had been found, skinny and with his paws kind of roughed up, but otherwise okay. Rainbow was spotted in California, 900 miles away from where he ran off in Yellowstone, yes. And he was 2 miles away from his actual home in California. So that's incredible. They believe that Rainbow somehow was able to make the journey back to California by himself. So that cat was only 200 miles away from his home. From his home. It's truly incredible. 900 miles, several states. This is a miracle. So the couple claims that they will practice camping in the backyard from now on to try to prevent this from happening again, or they're just thinking about leaving the kitty at home. Yes, camping with your cat seems pretty difficult. I don't know if I would ever do it. There's no need to victim blame here. It's great that Rainbow made his way back to California, and it's just a good thing that he didn't end up in Ohio. In Springfield, Ohio, that is. I'm glad that he didn't go the other direction and try to get up to Ohio, because he might not have that story to tell that he trekked 900 miles. This is truly a miracle. All right, I do want to talk about this story. It's kind of incredible, and I'm going to have more details on it tomorrow. The story is going to drop. It's going to be a big, big story when it comes to data being exposed, voter data being exposed. So there's a story out there: Social Security numbers, death certificates, voter applications, and other personal identifiable information were accessed through the open internet, according to a longtime security researcher. His name is Jeremiah Fowler. Spoke with him yesterday. He talked about how multiple Illinois counties, including DeKalb County, 12 other ones at least, there were several other ones that where they are using this third-party company. I don't know what McLean County used. I have to dig that information up, but some Illinois counties, multiple of them, use this company called Platinum Technology Resource. Okay, and this is an election service provider. What they do, they store voter information like your social security number, death certificates, voter applications, things like that. And he had access, this longtime security researcher had access to all this sensitive voter information. Now, if he had access to this, who's to say that we won't see Russia gain access or foreign adversaries gain access to this sensitive voter information? And the way he explained it was that if they obtain the information and if they get a social security number, not only, I mean, this is an election year, so I'm talking in terms of an election, but that, I mean, that's, identity theft. Iran, you've got Russia, China possibly getting hold of Americans' social security numbers. This is a huge story. So if they and not him, a security researcher, were able to access this information, he says the bad guys are looking for the same information I am. I'm just an ethical researcher. And what I do through my job, this is his job. He goes, I find this and I let people know, hey, your data has been exposed. So shame on these multiple counties, Illinois counties, who have hired this. And I'm not trying to rip on this third party company, because the security researcher, he kind of explained to me that they had good qualities. This third party company did. However, mistakes happen, and ultimately 4.6 million records were exposed, including full or partial social security numbers, people's death certificates, multiple things were exposed. So this is an explosive story. I'm going to have more on it a little bit later, but the way he explained it to me was, look, Russia, Iran, they could disrupt an entire election. What they would do is take your social security number and request multiple absentee ballots using your social security number or personally identifiable information. And he goes, this is possible. And what really bothers me is that you've got government officials, saying, oh, it's not possible. It's not possible. It is possible. And what really bothers me is that people don't seem to care to take preventative steps or be skeptical of, anything. They just would rather blanket statement, oh, it's fine. Everything's fine. It's not, because we now have a security researcher who has exposed the data, voter information, sensitive voter information. This isn't, oh, Kat's a Republican. This isn't that type of information. Oh, Kat lives, in Lincoln. No, this is social security numbers. Once you have access to somebody's social security number, you can disrupt an election and you can request multiple ballots in that person's name. You know what I mean? So crazy story. I do have to take a quick break, but we're going to wrap up the show. I want to talk about Senator Dick Durbin reacting to teens accounts, which is something that Instagram Meta has released. This is designed to try to protect children from sexual exploitation on online. It's also designed to, limit teens' interactions online on social media, because there's proof that it's damaging to children and their mental health, spending too much time online. So I'll be right back with that. I'm Conservative Cat. Woo! Hey, good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's Daily Show. Senator Durbin reacting to Meta introducing teen accounts. Yes, so Meta introduced teens accounts. It's according to the social media company Meta, Instagram, this new platform has built-in protections for teens. Now, it kind of limits who can contact teens, at what hours of the night they can contact teens. And it's all kind of designed to protect teenagers from possible sexual exploitation. And also, it's designed to, just protect teens overall from interacting on social media too much. There's limits on what kind of content they can see. So it's all in the hands of the parents. The parents are solely responsible in, setting the limits on the teen accounts. But Instagram has rolled this out. U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, it got on Twitter and he says, it's a step in the right direction, and any step to help kids is welcome. But this puts responsibility on parents instead of big tech. And he said Congress needs to pass his Child Sexual Abuse Material Act. And me and other legislators, they have said that this is pretty hypocritical because you've got Dick Durbin. He actually, a couple of years ago, I remember, rejected calls during a hearing, calls from, other legislators. I think it was Lindsey Graham at the time, where they said, hey, let's ban gender affirming care for minors. Let's ban child sex changes because it's a pseudoscience, it's, medical malpractice. And actually, other European nations are beginning to ban gender affirming care because they realize that it's irreversible and it's damaging to children. And we should, take action against this and ban gender affirming care for children. Senator Dick Durbin, of course, says, oh, we don't follow European nations and what they have to say because this is America. And, that's what he said, which I mean, it's like, in one breath, you're going to say that you're against child exploitation, child sex exploitation online. But in the next breath, you won't say that you're against child sex exploitation when it comes to these monopolies, this big pharma medical industry that's trying to chop up children for money. That's essentially what this is. You get kids hooked on puberty blockers for life because they've got to take hormones for life after their transitioning surgery, and you pretty much make them into cash cows. So, I think it's important that we point out this hypocrisy. Also, teens accounts, I think it's kind of a cool thing in that parents are going to have more of a say of what their kids are viewing online. Critics say the timing of the move by Meta suggests that they might be trying to avoid further regulatory measures, from Congress. Also possible future legal challenges they're trying to avoid this by implementing their own protections before the government gets involved. See, isn't it cool how the free market the private sector kind of just like creates their own rules so that way they don't get in trouble, right? Now, a few years ago, there was like a whistleblower for Meta. I think it was for Meta. And, she described how it was how the platform knew that they were damaging teenagers and that they were damaging specifically teen girls, and they were being sexually exploited online. Instagram's introduction of the separate teens account for those under the age of 18 comes after this whistleblower revealed Meta's negligence in addressing the harmful effects, Instagram's harmful effects on teenagers. Okay, so they're trying to, kind of run PR, I guess, Instagram. But overall, I think it's a great little thing. Teen accounts, yes, parents having more control over what their teens interact with online. I think that's a good thing. And, you leave the private sector alone, they kind of fix it themselves. Who would have thunk, right? But then again, you've got Dick Durbin saying, oh, we need to pass something in Congress to protect kids. You don't care about the kids. Otherwise, you would ban child sex changes as well. All right, you guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Love you. And we'll talk again tomorrow morning. Be sure to find me on YouTube, Rumble, and subscribe to my channel. You guys have a blessed one. Bye-bye.